Well, a couple of years ago in the UK, they had a fire, which is now famously known as the Grenfell Fire, where 72 people died. The British media was wall to wall on the issues of the fire, what caused it, or how it could be never happened again for weeks. Here in South Africa last week, we had a fire where at a building on the 80 Marshall Street where 77 people died, and almost like it never happened. We're going to talk to Herman Mashaba, former mayor of Johannesburg, to get some insights. Herman, I know that it's different countries. The UK is very far away from South Africa, but lives are lives. And this tragedy that happened in South Africa, sure, it made the headlines momentarily, but it's almost like we shell-shocked in this country, and we're now moving on to other news headlines. You, having been the former mayor of Johannesburg, and we can go into quite a lot of what you knew at the time, but you were aggressively trying to address this issue of hijacked buildings in the city. And so I thought there could surely not be any better informed person to give us some insights on exactly what went on here. We did talk to Mpho Dagada from a new political party called Arise South Africa, and he explained to us that this is all to do with criminality. But I'm sure you've got insights, perhaps just your take on this tragedy.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Alec, and showing interest in this particular very painful subject matter. I think more especially for someone like me who I was at the coalface of this for 3 years with a lot of pushback, called names, insulted, and just obviously my agenda, which was clear then and is clear now, was to reclaim hijacked buildings and provide affordable accommodation for our people. Because when I took over as the mayor of the city of Johannesburg, at the time, the housing backlog was sitting at over 300,000, with people on this waiting list since 1995, 96, 97. At the same time, we had the city, which 30 years ago was one of the top cities in the world. Really new by any standards, because Johannesburg, by world standards, it's a new city. But unfortunately, in the last 30 years, it's become a slum. I think, my kids actually, every time, long before this fire, when I was battling with this matter, they would really ask me, Dad, there must be something wrong with you. Do you think you can actually win this war against the slums? Because for them, because my daughter born in 94, and my son 2 years or so later. So for them, the only thing that they know when they grew up, Johannesburg was already becoming a slum. And you look at the condition by the time I became a mayor, it was a real slum. And they just don't believe me that South Africa was, with Johannesburg in particular, to tell them President Mandela, after winning the elections in 1994, ANC threw a party before his inauguration at the Carlton Ballroom. I don't know, Alec, you remember the Carlton Ballroom? The Carlton Center was the place. And I happened to have been one of the people invited to this event. And I look at it, in 10 years' time, Carlton Center closed, Johannesburg Sound around the corner closed, and we experienced this city really in front of our eyes being taken over by criminal elements. And it so happened that August 2016, I became the mayor. And during the 100 days of my administration on the 1st of December 2016, I made a commitment to people of Johannesburg that I am going to reclaim the city, whether people like it or not, because we don't have an option. No ways we can allow those buildings to be taken over by criminal elements, and we don't do anything about it. And in the process, We as a city, through the city, formed group forensic. You remember, led by General Sibia, and part of the units within GFIS was the hijacking unit to really do the audit of this and deal with this criminality, reporting to it to the law enforcement agencies. Unfortunately, there was a pushback because for some reason, when I made the pronouncement about taking back our reclaiming this city, I said, which is a fact, whether people want to call me names or not. It was a fact reporting to say majority of these buildings that we raid, we find up to 80% of the residents being undocumented foreign nationals. It was a fact, whether we like it or not. And that's when the criticism was labeled and unleashed against me, being xenophobic and so forth, which I don't understand what this meant. But lucky, Alec, I'm not the person easily distracted when I have the law on my side and I have my values on my side. I've soldiers on this, including managing to pass in council a project called the Inner City Rejuvenation Project because the city did not have the money to build houses for people, for South Africans. Building these RDP houses, you rely on national government through the province to give you grants to build RDP houses, where you build them houses far away from job opportunities. I said, no, this is not acceptable. Yes, we'll still accept these grants, but let's get the private sector involved, expropriate these buildings, give them to the private sector on a long lease. Let them tell us if we give them the building, how much they will invest, how many units of affordable units they will build, and how many people they will employ during construction phase and after completion. Very difficult process at the time, not getting the support of our national and provincial government, but I soldiered on because it was a very important project. In the process, in the 3 years, uncovered just over 600 buildings and properties in the city of Johannesburg. And in the process, managed to get about 44 of them, which we returned to the rightful owners because criminal hijacking syndicates were having a field day in the city of Johannesburg. So some of them, we returned 44 of them, I think, we returned them to the rightful owners. The ones where we could not find the owners, we then expropriated them because our constitution does allow expropriation without compensation when you're doing it for public good and you cannot find the owner because some of these buildings were hijacked, some of them were abandoned, some of them were derelict. The time I left, Alec, I'd already, through council, awarded 154 of these buildings to the private sector to start construction. We'd already gone through all these processes. Now it was just a question of the building in 2019 when we as a city awarded 154, of these buildings. Yeah. The private sector investment, 32 billion rands. I'm sure you can go into your archives, you can go into the city's website. This information is there for public knowledge. There's a wazza to the private sector was going to bring an investment of 32 billion rands. It was going to create 14,000 affordable accommodation for people and students. It was going to create 22,000 permanent jobs during and after the construction. Actually, a month before I left, I actually got council approval to expropriate, I think about 38 factories in the Wynberg area next to Alexander because this were abandoned buildings. Already people taking them over and putting structures. In one factory, you can find up to 50, 100 families. Dangerous environment. So I'd already managed to really pass that. But unfortunately for me, Alec, as you're aware, sad as it is, painful as it is, That's when I became aware of secret meetings between the ANC and the DA to have a motion of no confidence against me. And obviously, this being aware of this imminent motion, I'm not the one to really be pushed. And I said to South Africa, there was no way I would wait to be embarrassed by a motion of no confidence, because once you've got ANC DA, you've got no chance. So that's when on the 21st of October, I then announced to South Africa that I'm sadly have to leave because of the imminent motion of no confidence. And now, what is said about it is that this whole project passed by council was now put on the sidelines. So you can talk to the officials of the city. They were told by the new ANC administration that this is Mashaba project. It must be put in the bottom drawer somewhere. And what is actually quite sad about it is the fact that businesses which were awarded these tenders, you can imagine how much money they spent to put together motivation. Because this wasn't something which we just gave to friends. People had to really tender, give us the best proposal. So you can imagine how much they spent. They were just about to start the construction. I had committed, it's in writing, that I had committed to release a minimum of 100 buildings per year during the balance of my tenure as the mayor of the city of Johannesburg. But unfortunately, politics came into the way and forced to leave. And the project was put at the bottom drawer. Now look at what happened last week. It's actually quite upset. I'm emotionally drained as I'm talking to you, because I'm saying to myself, you know, why is this an accident? Honestly, you can't just call this an accident.
Herman, after you left, and we now know you've got Action SA, and perhaps in the next election, the electorate will remember all of these things. But after you left, what happened then to those buildings? Because the stories that are emerging now, and they appear to have lots of substance, is that there are people who are taking the buildings, giving them people who work for the council or politically connected, giving them to NGOs that they create, NGOs that are only an NGO in name, they don't do anything, and then using that as a front to extract rent from vulnerable people who pay them in cash, and it's really one big money-making racket. And as a consequence of this, the fire that killed 77 people reflects the danger or the high risk conditions that people are living in. So how did all of this get to where it is?
Yeah, well, Alec, that's why I was just at you. I'm emotionally drained, knowing that this could have really been avoided had we pursued this inner city rejuvenation. Perhaps, obviously, I think it is not really a science, but if that inner city rejuvenation project was allowed to continue, because it wasn't my project, it was a city-driven initiative approved by council. I wasn't doing this behind closed doors in dark rooms, smoked rooms. This was all these projects were approved by council. The difficulty here, Alec, which is actually quite sad, is that the kingpins of this hijacked syndicates are known to our law enforcement agencies, and unfortunately, even when I was a mayor, very reluctant to really prosecute these people. I'm sure you, as a journalist, if you're not aware, you can do your homework. How many times I used to complain about lack of reluctance and refusal of law enforcement agencies to deal with this criminal syndicates, including, remember, at one stage, I had to report Ndlemeza, General Ndlemeza, I don't know whether it's general or whatever he is. He was the head of the Hawks. I had to report him to IPED for defeating the ends of justice, because when General Sibia was reporting these cases of these criminals, giving them to the hawks, Ntlebeza called all the detectives to say to them, please, all these cases of Mashaba in the city of Johannesburg, before you investigate, please bring them to my office. So, fortunate enough, I happened to know about this meeting, and with General CB, I said, no, I'm going to report this to IPET, report Ntlebeza for defeating the ends of justice. Unfortunately, as you are aware, just a few days ago, he was opening his own political party. That shows the breakdown and the total disrespect for the rule of law in South Africa, and including the president of the country. I think either 2018 or 2019, I happened, no, 2018, I happened to sit next to President Cyril Ramaphosa at June 16 commemoration in Soweto. I was the mayor at the time. He was the president, sat next to him. And I took advantage to say, Mr. President, we are having huge challenges in the city of Johannesburg to get the support of our criminal justice system. We're sitting with lots of cases, and some of them involve some of your colleagues who are now currently serving with you in parliament, and some of them in your cabinet. And we need help, otherwise our country is in trouble. And you know what he said to me? He says, please do me a favor. He gave me his email address to send it to his office. When I got to his office, when I got back to my office, requested General Sibia and Jeffers to give me cases that they've already completed and they are easy to prosecute. They gave me 60 of them. Those cases, clear as daylight, the General Sibia and the team had already done some work, emailed that information very same day to President Cyril Ramaphosa's office. Here we are. It's how many years later? What, 5, 6? I was the mayor at the time and representing people of Johannesburg. The president, he is the one who requested me to send him this information. Even up to today, I've not received an acknowledgement of my email. So I'm surprised when the president says that this is a wake-up call. This is shocked. They want to carry out institute commissions of inquiry. I mean, the hijacked building problem in the city of Johannesburg, it's a known case. In fact, earlier today, I was talking to one of the media houses to say, but I don't understand the province and the new administration of the ANC and EFF that they want to do the audit of the buildings. We've got the reports are there were passed through council. They note this information. I said, instead of going on the ground, let them just ask JPC, this is Johannesburg Property Company. They've got information on every building that was investigated. Obviously, I'm sure there must be more, and act on that. But they're deciding to start all over again. I don't know why. Is it just political platitudes? I don't personally believe there's any seriousness in dealing with these matters.
Political will. But Herman, something that also raises its ugly head here is that if you had been able, the opposition, to take over the governance of Johannesburg. Now, I'm not going to lay the deaths of these 77 people at your door, but the opposition has to take some culpability, surely. And I'm, again, not Action SA, because I know you've been trying really hard to do this. But it's almost like playing politics rather than getting together, getting the coalition together, getting the ANC and the EFF out. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to see what's going on there. And then occurrences like this could be avoided. Is there any way that some good can come out of this, that you can bash a few heads together, particularly here, the DA and the PA, and get them to work together, get the governance of Johannesburg back, and actually start cleaning up the city once and for all?
Well, Alec, as you are aware, 2 weeks ago we signed the multi-party charter where we committed to work together. And on the sidelines of this convention, the discussions were held, facilitated by Honorable Shabisa from the IFP, with John Steenhuisen and Paul Nemolde from the Freedom Front Plus, to engage the PA to see if they'll be willing to join the charter, because obviously part of the charter's the item is the fact that you cannot work with the ANC. And obviously, John was fair to us to say, guys, you guys know the position of my party as far as PA is concerned. However, I will engage them as a result of what has really transpired, but I cannot guarantee I'll talk to them. But in the meantime, what I'll do this coming week, I'll get my team in Gauteng to start engaging your technical team. I then, in that meeting with him and Chabisa, I said to John, do you mind in the meantime, so that we run concurrent, that I get to Colonel Mulder, who's got a good relationship with Peyton McKenzie, to engage McKenzie to see if they'll be willing to sign the charter. And that's really what happened. To Colonel Mulder and Michael Berman from our side engaged the PA, Peyton and his team, and they were willing anytime to really sign this pack and get out of the arrangement with AAC, because it's part of our agreement. And in fact, what came out of when they came back to report to us, that they will actually even help the DA in other municipalities like Nelson Mandela Bay, Nice Nine, others, which we were not involved in. They do whole week. The team from the technical team of our other parties tried everything possible to talk to the DA in Gauteng to talk. But unfortunately, they all said, we don't have the mandate to engage in this meeting as yet. So the whole week, Saturday, later now, the following week, I was at a strat session preparing for a policy conference. I received a long letter from John Steenhuisen from the DA to inform me that they're not interested to work with the PA. They won't get in. They are not going to support our motion of no confidence, which motion we had submitted about 7 or so weeks earlier. So they are not going to support this. They are proposing to come out with a motion to dissolve council. My goodness, now. And what is actually quite interesting about this development is that because it's a long letter, as I was reading this letter already, and I was in a strat session, before I could finish reading this letter, already I had media on my side asking to my response on DA's letter to me. I said, to my goodness, we waited the whole week for the DA to come back to us. And John was not under any obligation to commit. He made it clear to us that to speak to his guys. But to write a letter to me, and before I finish reading the letter, he's already unleashed the media for my comment. I found it really very disturbing, and that's why on Monday then requested our Johannesburg caucus to withdraw our motion, because without the DA support, it didn't mean anything. And we went to council. Last week, the city of Joburg went to council before this fire. The DA presented a motion, and the Action SA councillors, IFP, Freedom Front Plus, and ACDP, we folded our arms, because whether we voted with the D or not, it was just really technical, because we did not have the numbers to carry that motion through. And this particular motion, you need a 2/3 majority. We did not have 50+1. So what was the point to vote for a motion that was going to fail? The very same, an hour after the failure of their motion, DA came out with a very scathing attack against Action SA, having voted with the ANC to reject the motion. Nothing about the IFP, nothing about the Freedom Front Plus, nothing about ACTP. We are not the only ones who folded our arms. But if even all of us had voted, we were going to lose anyway because we did not have the numbers. So I don't know. There's some kind of undercurrent that, to be honest with you, I find it difficult to understand. Perhaps I'm stupid.
You're not stupid. That's one thing that you can never be accused of. What's going on here, Herman? Tell it straight.
I don't know, to be honest with you, Alec. How do you explain what I've just told you? How fortunate enough, I've got witnesses. Place so you can ask Tabise, ask call the Molde, because we were given the mandate, and John Steenhuisen and the DA had no obligation to accept. What I find it difficult to, why didn't John, when obviously did not get the support of his party, to just call a Zoom meeting to say, guys, I really tried. My party's position is that we cannot. Yep, here's an alternative suggestion that my party is suggesting. Not to write me a letter a week later, and while I'm busy reading your letter, you've already unleashed the media for a response.
But Herman, what's the future of the multi-charter or the multi-party charter if you have this kind of deviousness going on in the background, this kind of inability to follow through on belief, on something that everybody has worked very hard for, on some tenuous grounds? Why are you still part of the charter? Why is the IFP there? Why is the Freedom Front there? If it looks like the DA says, do it our way or else take the highway.
What option, Alec, do we have? That's a question that my team asks me every day. Why? What the hell am I doing in this chat? But I think I'm a practical man. If I don't engage the DA and I don't engage the ANC, which I will never, I want South Africa to know, I'd rather be out of politics and this country collapse than really work with the ANC. That is, I'm very clear about. But tell me, if I'm going to not engage the DA, what option do I have? I hope that one day there's some sense will prevail within DA structures to put the interest of the residents of Johannesburg and South Africa ahead of their narrow political agendas. Because my own sense is that it is clear that they are concerned about the growth of PA in the Western Cape. They are concerned about Action SA's growth nationally. I think so. Probably there must be someone advising them to discredit us, and they don't realize, DA, that I wasn't born yesterday. And I'm not a prophet, but some of the things you can see what games are being played. And yes, you're not going to play this type of games forever. But at the end of the day, I'm not in politics for any other thing than to save our country from the ANC. So I will do everything, whatever it takes, to one day find a way to democratically mobilize South Africans to unseat the ANC so that we can start a new chapter for our country.
And the public, especially the people in Johannesburg, sit on the sidelines and shake their heads as the politics goes on and people die.
Yeah, you ask yourself, Alec, just look at it. I've spoken to so many people here in the city of Joburg, and I still talk to them. That they just don't understand why we, as a multi-party charter, we can prefer to have an ANC EFF government when we can actually unseat them. Because even with the PA, our proposal to John and the DA was that, DA, we respect your decision by not wanting to work with the PA. But you can't tell us ANC EFF is a better option. Then what to do? which would make you very powerful. Vote with us on an issue-by-issue basis. Allow us to unseat this. We will find a way to manage PA. You'll hold us accountable so that there's no corruption. In fact, for us, for me in particular, it'll help when I can have a robust opposition who can ensure that there's ethical leadership, we stop corruption and so forth. Because DA expresses concern of PA's corruption. But if they are there as a watchdog, because without their support, we can't govern. But I find this really very weird. It just doesn't, honestly, as much as I'm not a mathematician, you can only find out that, you cannot find out the actual motivation behind the DA's position. Now, I really hope and I pray that one day they'll find it within themselves to put the interest of South Africa ahead of their own narrow interest, because the DA is not going to govern on their own. Actually, what they're doing, they are expediting themselves, come 2024, to even lose the Western Cape at this rate at which they are operating, because a lot of people are really very upset with what is happening. Why you can claim to want to remove ANC and EFF in 2024? Yet an opportunity for the biggest metro in the country, the economic hub, where we can demonstrate to people of South Africa that we see us as the multi-party pact for removing ANC, EFF. Unfortunately for them, they says no, they don't want to get involved, including not being part of the government. Vote with us on an issue-by-issue basis. They are refusing. So, unfortunately, only the DA can explain this. I'm not their spokesperson. But we are committed. We are going to do everything possible to show that come 2024. Look, as Action is saying, this is actually driving more energy in us to try do everything possible to get outright majority, which it's almost an impossible ask. But we hope that with us emerging as the second biggest party to form this multi-party government and accommodate other parties, we are much more determined than ever before, because we realize that the only way we can save this country is for Action SA be the party that must form a national and provincial government, including here in Johannesburg, because here in Gauteng, without any doubt, the ANC is history. And national government does not get anywhere close to 40%. So there is that opportunity of unseating the ANC. If definite, for sure that in Gauteng, even working with the EFF, they won't be able to form government. The two of them. That's not going to happen. At national government, we are now running a risk of adding on the ANC, EFF. Now you're adding PA, and I'm sure no one can ignore the growth of PA in the Western Cape. So if now we are now driving them towards the ANC, EFF camp, I'm not, honestly. There's another big agenda somewhere.
Herman Mashaba, leader of Action SA. I'm Alec Hogg from biznews.com.